and welcome back to Supply Chain Africa News. My name is Wandabu Wanyama and I'm still with the CEO of inSupply Health, Mrs. Yasmin Chandani. So before we went on a break, we were talking about, as the CEO, what time do you wake up?
I'm not a morning person. So, the stereotype of people waking up at 4 a.m., that's not me.
Yeah.
But what I do is I am a night person, so I stay late. So after my kids are in bed, even the whole family is in bed, I'm often up late working. I've recently read that you have to get at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep, so I'm trying really hard. I'm on 7 right now. I haven't reached 8 yet,
Okay.
but that's when I do most of my work. But my morning routine, because I'm not a morning person, I need help waking up. So I rely a lot on exercise and coffee. And that's when I do my exercises in the morning. And then I only drink coffee in the morning, but I have to have my coffee in the morning.
Yeah.
So that's my routine.
Yeah, so when you are working all this, at the end of the day you want to have a legacy. So as Yasmin, which legacy do you want to leave?
Yeah. I've always wanted to make a difference. And this is what I love about the work I do. I think it helps me make a difference in many ways. And I think one of the beautiful things about inSupply is we have a team that's committed to building strong supply chains that are forward-looking. They're data-driven, they're responsive, they're resilient. I think COVID has shown us, right? Like supply chains is where we failed the most as a global community, and we have to do something for our supply chains, locally, regionally, nationally. So one of the ways in which I hope to leave a legacy is through the team I work with to really build up our supply chains in East, Southern, West Africa to be really owned and driven by people, but that are forward-looking supply chains, that use data, that are client-oriented, that really reach people where they are. I think the future is going to be patient-centered supply chains, right?
Yeah.
And as we evolve, our supply chains need to evolve, whether they're in the public sector or the private sector. And I think because of the kind of organization inSupply is, I think we have an opportunity to really help and do that. We have a great process around learning, innovation, co-creating with users, right? But the other way in which I hope to make a difference is within inSupply itself and making an impact with the people who come in and out of inSupply.
Yeah.
We're trying to build an organization, and I say we because it's obviously a team effort.
Yeah.
With other great leaders. And I think we're trying to build an organization where people are happy to come to the office. They feel fulfilled. They feel valued and appreciated, rewarded for the work they do because we work hard. But also where they feel challenged, In Africa, we have so much talent. Sometimes we don't challenge ourselves enough. And there is so much power within us. And if we can get the right environment to bring that power and talent out, we can do great things. Okay. So again, that's what the other area I hope to leave a legacy behind with.
As a supply chain professional, when you do a comparison, because you went to study in Europe, you've worked there, and then you do a comparison between the two countries, the two continents, where Africa we are, and then where the other side they are. What are we doing wrong, and what are we doing right?
Yeah. I think this comes back to the discussion we had earlier about where do we invest as a country? Yes, we're a developing country, but I think we could do so much more investment in education systems for ourselves, right? Our education systems fail us sometimes. They don't even build the basics. I was telling someone the other day, I sound old, but my generation of Kenyans, we were known to survive and thrive anywhere in the world. If you look at the Kenyan diaspora from my generation, they're all leaders. They're all doing so well because they had a really strong work ethic. They had a good education. We would go anywhere. We knew English. We could immediately start working. We knew we weren't scared of hard work, right? And that's really what you need. You need to know more than the basics, and you need to work hard, and you need to have opportunities. Those are the three places I feel like we fail nowadays, right? There is still amazing talent here, and they're not afraid of working hard. We have people on the team who work really hard. But the education system needs to be modernized. The teachers need to get paid appropriately. Corruption in our country and our countries have really affected so many of our systems. And I think education is an example. And then we don't have opportunities for our young people. And if you don't give young people opportunities, what does that say about our future and about them, right? We don't know how many Einsteins we're leaving behind because we don't have enough investment in our kids and in the future generations. So I think those are some of the areas. Not that the US actually has got it perfect. I think the US has a lot of problems too. They also have room to grow in this, but I was lucky to get that education and I got it here.
Experience both worlds.
Yeah. And I think maybe that's something we could do better in.
Okay. Earlier on you talked about COVID-19.
Yeah.
We're in the middle of the pandemic and you can see how everything is. You have a background in epidemiology.
Yeah.
What are we doing right and what are we doing wrong?
I talked a little bit about supply chains and how our supply chains need to really pivot. They need to be more agile. They need to be responsive. I think that breaks down to like a lot of details around how we do inventory, how we use data, how we equip managers to use the data to do that, how we think about sourcing, right? But if I were to take a step back from supply chains and look more broadly as an epidemiologist, one of the ways I think we're failing is building trust, right? There's a lot of vaccine hesitancy. Why is there so much hesitancy? Have we tried to understand why do people not go and take the vaccine, right? Not only here in Kenya, worldwide, right? In fact, the US is having a horrible problem. And Europe, they're having to incentivize people with all sorts of things, money, rewards, marijuana, right?
Yeah.
So how did we fail people so profoundly that they don't trust that the health system has their best interests at heart and that a vaccine could save their lives? That's what breaks my heart sometimes.
And it's very bad.
I mean, it's not only about saving lives with COVID, it's about quality of health. COVID has long-term effects, long COVID, that will affect your lungs for years to come. A simple vaccine can solve this problem.
But don't you think it's all about lack of proper information?
I think so, but that's what I'm saying. Whose responsibility? It was the health system's responsibility. We failed in not inspiring people, to trust that here's the right information. Maybe we should have started this early and said, there's vaccines, here's the pros, here's the cons, I think, unfortunately, the bad news travels faster than the good news, right? So all the misinformation about vaccines have gone far and wide. And now we have to undo some of that. If we had started early and maybe shared proactively, when that misinformation hit, people would have facts, right? And I think we need to reach out to churches, to communities, and educate and say, this is why. Tell us what your worries are and how do we address them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Have you been vaccinated?
Yes, absolutely. I tried to be very responsible and say I'm saving the vaccines for the elderly, for the health workers. And then like everyone and their grandmother in Nairobi is getting vaccinated, 22-year-olds. And here am I trying to be responsible because I was trying to make sure we had enough supply. And I was like, nope. Then, and then I started going back to travel to the field and was considered a frontline health worker. So I'm fully vaccinated. Everyone in my family that can be fully vaccinated is fully vaccinated, not my kids, obviously. And even, my bigger community, I'm a strong advocate for that.
But there has also been a challenge with vaccine inequalities.
Yeah.
Where developed countries, actually right now they're doing boosters.
Yeah.
Yet in Africa.
Yeah. There's such a big shortage, and it's true. When you look at the local level, though, what's happening is, in every country, we have surplus vaccine that's not being used yet. And that's what I meant about trust, right? The government has set an amazing goal. I think it's something like, is it 3 million new vaccinations by Huduma Day or something like that?
Yeah.
We've got a really good goal. It's amazing. And we're changing. What I love about the team that's leading the response in Kenya, they're really agile, right? They're like, how do we get there? We're going to churches, we're doing outreach. We have to reach people. So you're right, there are very heartbreaking global inequities, but I think we also have work to do at the local level to make sure that our vaccines don't expire. Because that would be terrible if we as a country say, you're not doing enough for us, we need more vaccine, and then the vaccine comes and it expires, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's a balance, but for sure there are these inequities. Everyone I know in the US got vaccinated way before I did.
Yeah.
But we do the best we can, and that's where I think those loud voices that are advocating for change make a difference.
Yeah. Last year we saw airports were closed. There was no shipment of cargo. Transportation was completely affected. As a supply chain professionals, what lessons did you get out of this pandemic?
Yeah, so I think I've alluded to some of them. Our supply chains need to be redesigned to be founded on data. How do you know that you need to do something different? Unless you have data that gives you a signal that says, by the way, your shipment is not coming because everything is closed, right? You're going to stock out in 5 days. Unless you get that information in time to act, how can we do anything about it? So you can't blame supply chain managers. We have to change our systems to be data driven, and then change the processes and the people so that we're founded on using that data, responding to the data. Now with AI and machine learning, you can predict what's coming. You don't even have to be reactive. We should be proactive and looking ahead and saying, what are the scenarios that might happen? What is the big lesson we learned from COVID? One of the big lessons is we can't put all our eggs in one basket when it comes to sourcing, right? We need to diversify our supplier base. We need to have different rules around inventory. Those are some of the lessons we've learned.
Which book are you reading currently?
So it's interesting. I am a voracious reader. Since I was young, I love reading fiction. And I had to force myself to start reading for business, for learning, for all the rest of it, because it wasn't really something I enjoyed doing. And so I always have about 2 or 3 different things I'm reading. I have whatever book I'm reading that I use to unwind at night before I go to bed. And then for work, I read mostly journal articles, newspaper articles. So I read a lot of Harvard Business Review, Stanford Social Innovation, Inc. magazine, all these kinds of things that really talk about leadership. They talk about the environment, trends, what's changing. And then I read technical journals on supply chain. What are the new trends? Things like that. And then I've started last year, listening to podcasts. Again, not something I used to enjoy. I much prefer to read than to listen. But there's so much, especially when I'm doing my morning walk or whatever, I listen to a podcast. And I've learned so much from those kinds. That one focus, again, I have really wide range of interests. So I line up different things. And depending on what my mood is, I'll listen to something on the environment or leadership or how to be a better manager or something like that.
Yeah. I would like to send you to a desert island for 40 days. Which are the 3 most important things that you make sure you have them? You must have them in that desert.
So, we do icebreakers like this at inSupply, right? This is not new to me. We always think about this and we joke. Are we wearing our practical hat, our supply chain hat? What are we wearing? So I'm going to put my practical hat on and tell you, I would take a sharp knife. This lets me cut down whatever food I need or catch some fish and kill them. I would also take a combined water purifier and desalinator, so I wouldn't go thirsty. And the last thing I would take is an iPad or an Android tablet, which has an inbuilt solar charger and has like hundreds of books. And then I'd be all set.
You're okay. Talking about an iPad, then it means also probably you'll be listening to music. So who is your favorite artist?
I don't have one favorite. I listen to so many different things. So I like Sauti Sol.
Oh.
But I also like Jerusalem, like Master KBS.
Yeah.
I like the whatever's, the trending, I like Avicii and I like really a wide range. I'm trying to think who else I like. I love West African music. My husband is West African, so I do a lot of West African music.
I thought you were saying the trending ones we have piano.
And then I listen to things like, there's one that whenever I'm feeling I need a bit of an uplift, there's a great, it's called the One Voice Children's Choir.
Oh, yeah.
And they do covers. And my favorite one is a cover of Maroon 5's Memories. It's such a beautiful song. Whatever you're feeling, it brings me out of where I am.
I'll make a point of listening to it. Is that the only song that every day when you wake up you feel like I must listen to this before I go to work?
No, no, no.
Or,
I don't listen to the same thing every day. It's all about my mood. So if I feel like I need a really strong workout, I'll do Jerusalem, pop music, that kind of anything that like gets you pumped.
energetic.
Yeah. Memories is when I'm like feeling very reflective or thoughtful. I need to calm down, something like that. And and then I mix it up depending on what my mood is like.
Yeah. What would be your advice to young women who wants to join the profession?
Who want to become supply chain?
Yes.
Want to join? Definitely do it. I think it's one of those untapped, underestimated professions. It brings in, supply chain is about systems, and it's about people and data and really having sustainable impact. And so it can be so rewarding to work in supply chain, because it might sound like a traditional stereotypical male
dominated
field, but in fact women can do great things in supply chain. Women think differently, they approach problems differently. So when you have the combination of men and women, we can tackle some of the world's hardest problems. Because ultimately, I mean, if you think about during the pandemic, Amazon workers were considered essential health workers. Why? Because of supply chains, right? Supply chains are critical to how we live, to how we have a global economy. Things need to move locally, regionally, internationally. It's such a great opportunity. And now that supply chains have to change, with what we've learned from COVID, there are so many opportunities. And you can find your place in supply chain. You don't need to be, great at data. You can be good at the people side. You can be good at capacity building. There's so many different dimensions in supply chain. So I would encourage everyone, but especially women, to consider this as a career. I don't have a single regret about working in supply chain.
Yeah. Where do you see in-health supply?
We're currently working on our 3 to 5 year strategy, so I can be quite specific about it. We want to have an impact beyond Kenya and Tanzania. We're headquartered in Nairobi. We have an office in Tanzania, but our dream is to produce tools, insights, valuable ways of strengthening supply chain that go way beyond the two countries. We want to reach out. That doesn't mean physically we will open new offices, but we want to extend our reach to other parts of the continent and really work with other organizations that have the same passion for supply chain, but for also solving problems differently. And so that's one thing we aim to do in the next 3 to 5 years, is extend our network, offer global goods to other people, other organizations that are interested in seeing some of the same results we see. I see a team of people at inSupply growing who are going to be game changers and transform the way supply chains work and the impact we have.
Okay. So your parting shot?
Just that, don't be scared of hard things, Definitely the journey I've on has not been easy. There's so many times where it's been difficult, but I think when you work hard and you just persevere, don't look at the big picture, just look at what's ahead of you. And if you can get through those next few hurdles, you can get through anything. Because I think life is a series of challenges. It's valleys and peaks, right? And you enjoy the valleys, and when you get to the peak, you just grit your teeth and you get through it. And it makes you stronger. It's a cliche, but for me, it's been true. But you have to have that growth mindset, right? Rather than a victim mindset. You've got to say, this is what's the opportunity here? How can I help people? How can I become stronger? And then every time you hit a challenge, it's less of a challenge and more of an opportunity. So that's what my parting shot would be. Don't be scared to try difficult things.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your time. We really appreciate.
Me too.
Yeah, and it was a great pleasure meeting you,
Me
because
too.
I read
Thank
your
you very
CV
much.
was such a huge one. Thank you very much for keeping it Supply Chain Africa News. Special thanks to Amani Gardens in Westlands for hosting us. If you are looking for a place where you can host your event, accommodation, also you are looking for food, sports, this is the place where you can come. Remember, every Friday we also have a new video on our YouTube channel. We are also on Facebook, LinkedIn, and Instagram as Supply Chain Africa News. Until next time, my name is Wandabo Wanyama.